Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Chaitanya. So eventually I'm going to read from the 10th canto about Krishna. But recently I was sitting in on some Zoom sessions, which I really appreciate, the mood and the atmosphere within the group for discussing topics of Krishna. Really wonderful atmosphere. There's no challenging, there's no arguing, there's no who's right and who's wrong, none of that. It's a very sweet atmosphere where people, they may share their realizations and everything's backed up with scripture. I'm really a duck out of water there in a lot of ways. I think I know by heart only a couple verses, and I don't even know where they are. So that's not my field of activity, with a big intellect for Hare Krishna. I fortunately am able to capture at least some of the essence, but, to really, the details of the scriptural stuff, I don't have that kind of brain, which was part of what they discussed. It's a mixed group, men and women, and the leader of the Sangha is very, very intelligent, very learned. He's like an encyclopedia, but not cut and dry. He's very soft-hearted and sweet. And so the atmosphere is really delightful. Very harmonious on the platform of knowledge. The knowledge aspect of Krishna approached devotionally. That's what I came up with, is that because it's a platform. Hey Lance Garrett, hey Krishna. I was just sharing how I was sitting in on a session recently where the platform was knowledge, but approached devotionally. And it was a very pleasing atmosphere. It was very harmonious. And it allowed for different lights to come out and different references to come out. No one was trying to one-upman anyone else. That was out of the question. To be honest with you, it reminded me of some AA sessions where everybody just relates to the higher power with whatever gifts they've come to the group. It was a real Krishna conscious knowledge higher power session. It was really high power because of the devotional aspect and the acceptance, the mood of acceptance. I more or less just monitor the activities because the level that everyone's relating on is really academic, but devotional academic, which makes it very sweet. So I learn a lot just by hearing their discussions, and everything is scripturally backed up, but it's not dogmatic or challenging. It is not that at all. It's like you're all in the boat with Krishna, and they might as well be singing. It might as well be a musical performance where everyone is harmoniously tuned in, but it's on the platform of knowledge and reference, which is really far out. So I'm just sitting in, I very rarely say anything, and when I do, it sounds like a frog. I'm just happy to be there. I don't have anything to prove. I learn a lot just by watching everybody interact and also hearing their discussions, but it's not my natural field of activity. A lot of references and scriptures. I was saying it. I might know like 2 verses by heart, but I don't even know where they are. It's just, there's something for everyone. But I love sitting in on the sessions just because of the atmosphere. It's a very devotional, it's like you're in the boat with Krishna, and somebody's fanning Krishna and somebody's playing the harmonium, and only they're doing it with scripture and quotes. Is really, really far out. So it was my birthday yesterday. I thank you everyone for all your well wishes. That was a lot of fun. And it reminded me how fortunate we all are to be born at this time when we have this access to Krishna Chaitanya. It's a great time. We really hit the jackpot this time. As difficult as it is, the material world's really nasty. But because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it just serves as impetus to surrender more. So someone mentioned behind the scenes that it was my birthday, and they took the time to offer a little blessing, the Vanchakalpita prayers. Vanchakalpita Rubhyascha. I was caught off guard. I was a little embarrassed. I don't have much of a voice in the group. I'm all ears, I was like, what do I say? So the frog croaked again. So I don't even know why it came. It just came out. I just let it. I had to say something. So this is what came out. I just said, I don't say that I fully understand everything that's being discussed here, which is kind of a lie. I do understand, but I just didn't want to enter into the platform of like I was some authority or something too. Like I consider them all very authoritative. I don't claim to understand everything that's being discussed here, but I learned so much just from the way everyone interacts, and that was the best I could do, and I thanked them for letting me sit in on the group. And then I was wondering later, like, why did I say that? It's kind of a weird thing to say in a group like that, where they're all intellectual. And then I realized it's because of the devotional atmosphere with which they're approaching knowledge. They're approaching knowledge in devotion. And a group like that just wants to find Krishna. And Krishna can only be understood by devotion. So their talents and their abilities, it's not music, it's not art, it's not cooking, is knowledge. And so they're approaching Krishna through knowledge in devotion. And that's what makes that atmosphere so beautiful and so attractive. So I did say the right thing. It was funny because earlier in the session, the verses, sometimes Prabhupada mentions that the different kinds of births and how some are lower and some are higher. And sometimes people have a little difficulty with that because it sounds like discriminating, the women are less intelligent. It sounds like a chauvinistic thing to say, but actually it's fine because it's true. they have a different kind of intelligence. It's a different kind of intelligence. So, and then someone quoted about the wives of the Brahmins, how they weren't as intelligent and qualified in scripture. They weren't even educated. They were just wives of the Brahmins, serving their Brahmin husbands. But the Brahmin husbands couldn't recognize Krishna and the cowherd boys when they appeared before them, asking for some food. They couldn't recognize Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys. Actually, Krishna and Balaram didn't go personally. They sent their friends. But they couldn't, they asked in the name of Krishna and Balaram, but the Brahmins, well, they're super intelligent and big this and big that, they said, well, we don't have time for cowherd boys. What is this? We're busy with our... But it was the wives. They recognized the devotional service atmosphere when they saw the boys within their hearts. So they had a different kind of intelligence. And later on, when the Brahmins realized their mistake, or their oversight, or their distraction, there's a great soliloquy that goes on there where they say, to hell with our austerities, to hell with our rituals, to hell with our sacrifices, to hell with all our knowing this verse and that verse, to hell with it all! We didn't recognize Krishna and Balaram, and when they appeared before us, what good is it? So there's that, which somebody mentioned during the discussion about the women being less intelligent. So when I was embarrassed and I was on the spot, and with the happy birthday thing, I just said, well, I don't claim to understand everything that's being discussed here. But I learned so much, and I appreciate very much the way everyone interacts. I guess I was trying to say, glorify the devotional atmosphere. So that's what I came up with, why I said that, because it just came out. It's like, it was what came out. So that was a lot of fun. And then I was thinking about it, why I said that. And so I think that's why. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna consciousness is like so subtle that it's even more subtle than subtle. It's transcendental. Sometimes there are subtle undercurrents, subtle things that go on. A person acts one way, but on the subtle level, it's another thing. Well, Krishna consciousness is even more subtle than subtle. It's completely transcendental. And there are currents, and there are emotions, and there are things that go on. And we want to be open to them. And sometimes it's painful or embarrassing or confusing, but they're valuable. These feelings, these impressions, it sometimes is a little disturbing. Like there was one yesterday where I caught myself being overly attached and possessive in a relationship, just a friendship. And I realized the way I spoke and the way I act was really inappropriate. I was so embarrassed because there was some possessiveness there and wanting to control the person. And so I had to take a really good look at that, and I got free. I got free of it. And I was able to share with them, my embarrassment and to thank them for allowing me to get a little purification in their association. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Devotee association is really, Prabhupada said it's like 99% of Krishna consciousness, because how else are these things going to come out, Lance has a thing here. What does he say? He's writing here his comments. He says, hope you're feeling better. Yeah, slowly. I'm still kind of like foggy. I mean, that shot was a loop, it was a looper. And then someone told me one time, dogs are smarter than cats. Well, each have their own intelligence. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. The other thing I was seeing with approaching knowledge is devotees, sometimes they approach knowledge with other motives than Krishna, even though it's knowledge about Krishna. They want to control the situation with their superior knowledge. It's like they want to, it's almost like they block Krishna. They don't approach Krishna through knowledge, through devotion. Then where's Krishna? Even though I'm talking about Krishna, and it's like Krishna still remains hidden because of the way he's being approached through knowledge. It has to be through devotion. Because he says, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am. And there are different types of service. One is through knowledge or intelligence. Bhagavad Gita it says he's buddhi yoga, or through intelligence, using the intelligence. Whatever intelligence one has to be used for Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that was a lot of fun. Association with devotees always gives me something to kind of process and resolve and think about afterwards. I really, really appreciate association because of that. Because then, while I'm in the association, it's just sort of going on. But afterwards, I can go deeper. It gives me like food for thought about Krishna. And not negative. It's not like looking for everything that was wrong in what happened. No, but looking for clues to find Krishna and to fine tune how I associate with people, not just devotees. Because everyone's actually serving Krishna, some are just asleep. So I can try to fine-tune how I relate to people. And not just people. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. So that little quiet time is really valuable. It's where you kind of process things. Like the battery gets recharged, you have to recharge the battery. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Feels like you're unplugged because there's not a whole lot of busy activity going on. But actually you're plugged in another way. Like, they have this electric riding mower. I mean, the thing is great. I really love the thing. It's really nice. It works really good. And it pulls the cart around if I have to drag things around, It's almost an acre here. And, it can ride the thing around. It's really great. And so far, It's required very little maintenance. I shudder to think when it breaks down what's going to happen, but hey, right now it's working good. And so when it's active, it's running, it's doing all kinds of things. It's cutting the grass, it's hooked up to the cart, it's pulling tree branches that fell out of the trees, it's carrying rocks, it's doing all kinds of stuff. But then it gets plugged in at night and it gets charged up. So, kind of like that, busy activity, interacting, relating with others, and then chanting japa, getting charged up, taking rest, thinking about the interactions, and getting ready for some more engagement. In Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. What fun! I remember Prabhupada, he said, you know, in the spiritual world, the things are going on just like here, like a typewriter. Here, it's going clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Well, in the spiritual environment, the typewriter's still going clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. But it's for Krishna. So there must be riding lawnmowers there, and they ride around here, and then they also ride around there. So, like being I guess I'm thinking of myself like a lawnmower. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of weird, but Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I'm going Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna here. So what are we going to be doing there? We're going to be going Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There. All right, Lance, what's up? He's got something else. I remember we unboxed it and put it together. Oh, the lawnmower. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great toy. It's like, you know how people get attached to their horse? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, what else we got here? All right, how about actually hearing about Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya. Boy, that is really, that realization about that particular group and how they're approaching Krishna through knowledge, but through devotion, is like, wow, really nice. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a summary study by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is ill-motivated Dhṛtarāṣṭra. So Krishna is in Mathura, and he's been visiting devotees there. He visited Kubja, he visited his uncle, Akrura, and now he's visiting Akrura, and he shares with his uncle that he's very concerned about the Pandavas, whose father has passed away, and they are being left under the care of an uncle, Dhṛtarāṣṭra, who is well known to be attached to his own son, Duryodhana, who doesn't have a very good character. He's envious, lustful, greedy, He's got some really bad qualities. But he's Dhṛtarāṣṭra's son. And Dhṛtarāṣṭra's attached to him. And he's the oldest son. So this is the royal family. Dhṛtarāṣṭra should have been the king. And the kingdom should have been transferred to his oldest son, Duryodhana. But because he was born blind, he wasn't qualified to sit on the throne, and therefore his son, Duryodhana, would not inherit the kingdom. Instead, the kingdom went to Pandu and to Pandu's sons. Yeah, there's a whole story about why Dhṛtarāṣṭra was born blind. Mahabharata is great. It's really great. His mother was impregnated by Srila Vyasadeva, who had been performing incredible austerities. And I forget why, but Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Vyasadeva was the father of the whole crowd there. He was the father of he was the sire of Pandu's father also, mother. There were 3 sisters. Anyway, it's the family tree of Mahabharata is really complicated. But he had been performing incredible, but they needed progeny to continue the royal family, and so Vyasadeva, the brother, I think, at that time these kinds of things were allowed. The brother could conceive in the wife of his brother if the husband couldn't produce children. Anyway, that's what happened. It wasn't some illicit, horrible thing. It was according to the codes of civilization at the time. And it was Srila Vyasadeva himself, but he had been forming incredible austerities, and he was quite hard to look at. Matted hair, and he was very thin, and he was really difficult to look at. So Dhṛtarāṣṭra's mother, when she couldn't look, she closed her eyes. And because of that, she couldn't look at Vyasadeva. Great sage, great saint. She closed her eyes. Dhṛtarāṣṭra was born blind. Pandu, his mother, also same thing. Vyasadeva conceived, and she looked, but she turned pale because he was so gaunt and unattractive for that kind of activity. It's totally unattractive. And so Pandu was born very, very pale. He had a very, very pale complexion. Krishna, Mahabharata. So Dhṛtarāṣṭra was born blind, so he couldn't sit on the throne, and his eldest son, Duryodhana, could not inherit the kingdom. So there was this enmity. Duryodhana was not a good character. He wanted that kingdom by hook or by crook. He tried to kill his cousins. He did all kinds of things he tried to poison them. He tried to set their house on fire. I mean, he was a trip. He was a force to be reckoned with, Duryodhana. So Krishna is concerned. He wants to know what's happening over there in Hastinapur. Krishna's in Mathura with his uncle, and he asks Akrura to please go there and observe what's going on. Are the Pandavas being taken care of nicely? What's going on? Are they in danger? What's happening? And then, give me some report, please. So this is chapter 48, Ill-Motivated Dhṛtarāṣṭra. And here we go. Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. Thus being ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Akrura visited Hastinapur. Hastinapur is said to be the site of what is now New Delhi. The part of New Delhi which is still known as Dhṛtarāṣṭra is accepted by people in general as the old capital of the Pandavas. The very name Hastinapur suggests that there were many hastis, or elephants. Because the Pandavas kept many elephants in the capital, it was called Hastinapur. Keeping elephants is a very expensive job. To keep many elephants, therefore, the kingdom must be very rich, and Hastinapur was full of elephants, horses, chariots, and other opulences. When Akrura reached Hastinapur, he saw that the capital was full of all kinds of opulences. The kings of Hastinapur were taken to be the ruling kings of the whole world. Their fame was widely spread throughout the entire kingdom, and their administration was conducted under the good counsel of learned Brahmins. After seeing the very opulent capital city, Akrura met King Dhṛtarāṣṭra. He also saw Grandfather Bhishma sitting with him. After meeting them, he went to see Vidura, and then Vidura's sister, Kunti. One after another, he saw the son of Somadatta and the king of Balika, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Karna, and Suyodhana. Suyodhana is another name of Duryodhana. He saw the 5 Pandava brothers and other friends and relatives living in the city. So this group, this crowd, is absorbed in another kind of pastime. So Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan, and he was able to enter into and relish the mood there. But now he sent Akrura to Hastinapur on the mission of gathering information, and Akrura is able to enter into this environment where a different kind of pastime is going on. This is Krishna's mercy on Akrura. When Akrura went to Vrindavan, he was a bad guy. He took Krishna and Balaram out of Vrindavan. He was never forgiven for that by the gopis. And later on, he gets what appears to be a transcendental reaction for doing that. But here he's entering into a whole nother environment, a whole nother type of mood in Hastinapur. Akrura was known as the son of Gandhi, so whomever he met was very pleased to receive him. He was offered a good seat at his receptions, and he inquired all about his relatives' welfare and other activities. Now, he has been sent by Krishna, just like Uddhava was sent by Krishna. When he went to Vrindavan, he was sent by Kamsa. But here, he's being sent by Krishna. Since he was deputed by Lord Krishna to visit Hastinapur, it is understood that he was very intelligent in studying a diplomatic situation. Dhṛtarāṣṭra was unlawfully occupying the throne after the death of King Pandu, despite the presence of Pandu's sons. Akrura wanted to study the whole situation by remaining there. He could understand very well that ill-motivated Dhṛtarāṣṭra was much inclined in favor of his own sons. In fact, Dhṛtarāṣṭra had already usurped the kingdom and was now instigating and planning to dispose of the 5 Pandava brothers. Akrura knew also that all the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, headed by Duryodhana, were very crooked politicians. Dhṛtarāṣṭra did not act in accordance with the good instruction given by Bhīsma and Vidura, but he was being conducted by the ill instructions of such persons as Karna, Sakuni, and others. Akrura decided to stay in Hastinapur for a few months to study the whole political situation. Uh-oh. I think we've got an interruption here. I hope it isn't what I think it is. Hare Krishna. Maybe it'll go away. Oh, it is. Hare Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya. Oh, God. There's nothing I can do about it. It needs to stay on. Ah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. All right. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. It'll go away in a minute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Krishna, Krishna. There's no place in Kali Yuga. Even if you go way out in the middle of nowhere, there's going to be a plane that goes overhead, or just Hare Krishna. Go to the Antarctic, and there'll be an exploration crew. Krishna. Okay. So, back to Hastinapur. And Akrura decided to stay in Hastinapur for a few months to study the whole political situation. Gradually, Akrura learned from Kunti and Vidura that Dhṛtarāṣṭra was very intolerant and envious of the 5 Pandava brothers because of their extraordinary learning in military science and their greatly developed bodily strength. They acted as true chivalrous heroes, exhibited all the good qualities of Kshatriyas, and were very responsible princes, always thinking of the welfare of the citizens. Akrura also learned that the envious Dhṛtarāṣṭra, in consultation with his ill-advised son, had tried to kill the Pandavas by poisoning them. Akrura happened to be one of the cousins of Kunti. Therefore, after meeting him, she began to inquire about her paternal relatives. Cousin of Kunti. You know if it's how that works, but he's a cousin. Thinking of her birthplace, she began to cry. She asked Akrura whether her father, mother, brothers, sisters, and other friends at home were still remembering her. She especially inquired about Krishna and Balaram, her glorious nephews. So Kunti's a widow now because Pandavas passed away. She asked, does Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very affectionate to his devotees, remember my sons? Does Balaram remember us? Inside herself, Kunti felt like a she-deer in the midst of tigers. Actually, her position was like that. After the death of her husband, King Pandu, she was supposed to take care of the 5 Pandava children, but Dhṛtarāṣṭra was always planning to kill them. She was certainly living as a poor, innocent animal in the midst of several tigers. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, she was always thinking of him and expecting that one day Krishna would come and save them from their dangerous position. So here's another mood of separation. The gopis have their mood of separation. They're not in a dangerous position, but they're feeling separation from Krishna. And here, Kunti is also feeling separation from Krishna and wanting Krishna to come and rescue them from a dangerous situation. But it's impetus for her to always remember Krishna. Yes, she has some beautiful prayers. She actually glorifies the difficulties because she sees it as impetus to remember Krishna and desire Krishna, knowing him to be the protector of everyone. So she inquired from a courier whether Krishna proposed to come to advise the fatherless Pandavas how to get free of the intriguing policy of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and his sons. By talking with the courier about these affairs, she felt herself helpless and began to exclaim. So at one point she's crying. Thinking of her birthplace, she began to cry. My dear Krishna, so she says, my dear Krishna, you are the supreme mystic, the super soul of the universe. You are the real well-wisher of the whole universe. My dear Govinda, at this time you are far away from me, yet I pray to surrender unto your lotus feet. At the present moment, I am very much grief-stricken with my 5 fatherless sons. I can fully understand that, but for your lotus feet there is no shelter or protection. Your lotus feet can deliver all aggrieved souls, because you are the supreme personality of Godhead. One can be saved from the clutches of repeated birth and death by your mercy only. My dear Krishna, you are the supreme pure one, the super soul, the master of all yogis. What can I say? I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Accept me as your fully surrendered devotee. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Although Krishna was not present before her, Kunti offered her prayers to him as if he were in her presence, face to face. This is possible for anyone following in the footsteps of Kunti. Krishna does not have to be physically present everywhere. He is actually present everywhere by spiritual potency. And one simply has to surrender unto him sincerely. When Kunti was offering her prayers very feelingly to Krishna, she could not check herself and began to cry loudly before Akrura. Vidura was also present, and both Akrura and Vidura became very sympathetic to the mother of the Pandavas. They began to solace her by glorifying her sons. Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Bhima, they pacified her, saying that her sons were extraordinarily powerful. She should not be perturbed about them, since they were born of great demigods, Yamaraj, Indra, and Vayu. Hare Krishna. Kunti had been given that benediction that who was the Muni? Was it, I don't know, it was one of the Munis was visiting Kunti's home when she was still a young girl in her parents' home. And was it Durvasa? It was somebody, one of the great powerful sages. And she served him very nicely as a young girl. And he was very pleased with her, and he gave her the benediction that she could call any of the demigods, and they would come to be with her. Perhaps she didn't fully understand what that meant, because she experimented, and she wasn't married yet. She was just a young virgin girl, and she called, who did she call for first? She called for, it wasn't Surya. Yes, it was Surya. She called for the sun god first. That caused a big problem later. She called for Surya, the mantra that had been given her, and Surya came. But he explained to her that there has to be some fruit from our union. I can't just come and visit. When you call me like this, there's a serious connection here, and you have to conceive an entity from this. And she was oh no, I can't. I'm not married. This is terrible. I made a mistake. Go away, go away, go back. What did I do? And so Surya, he reassured. He said, well, understandable. But still, you have to conceive. But the way we'll do it is the entity will be born from your ear. So you'll remain a virgin. The entity will be born. So this was Karna. And that's why he has that name, Karna. It refers to from the ear. And so she gave up the child. She put it in a little basket and put it in the river. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. 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 Kind of like a Moses story. And evidently that went on at that time. People seem to be doing that. Maybe there were other people that we don't know about that did stuff like that. Anyway, put him in a little basket in the river. He was found by a charioteer and raised. He didn't know his real birth. He just thought he was the son of a charioteer. But he was born with full armor, because he was born from a demigod. He was extraordinary. And he didn't know he was the son of Kunti. He didn't know until the battle took place and he was on the other side and he was fighting his brothers. So that was a mess. But Hare Krishna. Mahabharata. Whew. Wonderful. It's actually history. So demigods don't even come here now for anything. But at that time, 5,000 years ago, evidently this could happen. Hare Krishna. Because it's reported that it did happen. Hare Krishna. So, Akrura is explaining, don't worry about your sons. They're all born from demigods. Because later, Pandu was cursed that if he tried to conceive, and he had 2 wives, then he would immediately die. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? So she used her mantras. And Yamaraj, Indra, and Vayu. And that's how the Pandavas, their father, is actually demigods. It gets complicated. But it's fun. And in the middle of the Mahabharata, with all this intrigue, and this one and that one, and the demigods, and all this going on, just before the huge battle, right in the middle of the Mahabharata, Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. It's like a timeout. Hare Krishna. And then the battle begins and it starts all over again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, okay, yeah. One more paragraph, I think. And then Akrura decided to return and report on the extreme circumstances in which he found Kunti and her 5 sons. He wanted to give good advice to Dhṛtarāṣṭra, who was favorably inclined toward his own son, and unfavorably inclined toward the Pandavas. Yeah, he first wanted to give good advice to Dhṛtarāṣṭra before he returned. When Kunti and Dhṛtarāṣṭra were sitting among friends and relatives, Akrura began to address him, calling him Varchitravirya. Varchitravirya means the son of Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya was the name of the father of Dhṛtarāṣṭra. But Dhṛtarāṣṭra was not actually the begotten son of Vichitravirya. He was the begotten son of Vyasadeva. Formerly, it was the system that if a man were unable to beget a child, his brother could beget a child in the womb of his wife. That system is now forbidden in this age of Kali. Akrura called Dhṛtarāṣṭra Varshatra sarcastically, because he was not actually begotten by his father. He was the son of Vyasadeva. When a child was begotten in the wife of the husband's brother, the child was claimed by the husband, but of course the child was not begotten by the husband. This sarcastic remark pointed out that Dhṛtarāṣṭra was falsely claiming the throne on hereditary grounds. Actually, the son of Pandu was the rightful king, and in the presence of Pandu's sons, the Pandavas, Dhṛtarāṣṭra should not have occupied the throne. It's hard to stop, but let me see. Yeah, I think we'll go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What chapter? I think it's 46. Lance wants to know what chapter. Oh, come on. I have no patience. Come on, pages. 48. Chapter 48. Ill-motivated. Dhṛtarāṣṭra. So we're getting a little bit of a glimpse here and there of the Mahabharata, which is really extensive. Well worth it. Actually, Prabhupada wanted to translate with commentary Mahabharata, but he barely had time to even do the first 10 cantos of the Bhagavatam. So there are some decent translations. Hare Krishna, we can get some idea of it. It's just that when you get to the Bhagavad Gita part, maybe don't read that. Read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita instead. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Bol.